Hi, this is Janice Min, CEO and Editor-in-Chief of Ankler Media. We have a special podcast today coming to you from Cannes Lion. I am here in the south of France with Natalie Jarvie of Like and Subscribe, brought to you by Ankler Media, the creator economy newsletter. And this week, Natalie, it's all about creators, right?
Yeah, creators have really taken over Cannes, and that was evident by a lot of the executives who were here on the Croisette, including Neal Mohan, the CEO of YouTube, who you interviewed at ADWEEK House.
Yeah, I did a one-on-one with him today in advance of his keynote at Cannes Lion, and he was great. Tomorrow, I need to throw in this week, Natalie also will be part of a creator lunch we're doing at the Hotel du Cap with Meta. But it was all about YouTube today. And one of the things that was so important to us about talking to Neal Mohan was that YouTube is changing television radically in Hollywood right now. For those of you who have been following along, Ted Sarandos has said that their real competitor is not Disney Plus, it's not Max, or now HBO Max, it is actually YouTube. And the conversation starts with that discussion about what is going on. Enjoy. Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. Neal, good to see you.
Nice to see you, Janice. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Okay, so let's get into it. 20th anniversary of YouTube. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay, applause. Okay. So I want to start with this big cultural change. The Ankler covers the world of entertainment. So I want to start with the cultural change happening that you're well aware of, I'm well aware of, but maybe not everyone else is. So, okay, YouTube now accounts for 11% of all watch time on TVs. And that may not sound like a huge number. That is a massive number. It's the first streaming platform to surpass that milestone. Second place is Netflix at around 8.5%. So I'm going to read some things Ted Sarandos, the co-CEO of Netflix, has recently said about YouTube. And then I want you to react. Okay. So here's some sick burns coming.
All right.
Okay. So
let's see what you got.
Okay. Ted has said YouTube is a platform focused on killing time, and Netflix is in the spending time business. YouTube doesn't pay creators upfront for content, putting them at financial risk. And he suggested that YouTube creators could find a more stable financial future with Netflix. And the last thing he's been emphasizing is Netflix's focus on premium storytelling. So you've gotten under Hollywood's skin. Let's hear
Clearly, yes.
I want to hear your reaction to this.
My reaction to it is, as you and I were just talking about, we're in the business of our creators. Our only job is to give them a voice, make them successful. It's literally written into our mission statement. So I spend very little time thinking about those types of quotes and all of my time focused on what's going to make our creators successful. You come to YouTube, we all come to YouTube because of these amazing creators and artists and musicians and all kinds of thought leaders are, and that's who you go to engage with. And you know, who am I to say what's spending time, engaging time, quality time, killing time? I think that's, frankly, just the industry just kind of talking to itself. It's all of us as consumers, the 2 billion people that come to YouTube every single day. We get to decide how to spend our time. And increasingly, more and more of them are spending it with the amazing creators on YouTube.
Well, you did answer back a little bit. You had Brandcast, right, which is kind of your upfront during Upfronts week. And you brought out all your big creators and you gave a quote and you said, this isn't about YouTube becoming more like traditional TV. This is about TV becoming YouTube. So let's talk about what you mean by that.
Yeah. And actually, the first thing that I meant by that quote is, again, it's not my job to determine what people consider to be TV. It's not any of my partners or competitors' jobs to do that. It's all of us as consumers. Consumers are actually voting with their watch time, with their engagement. And that's really what I meant, which is if you're a person, especially if you're a young person, your expectation is that when you turn on the TV, the reason why you're turning on YouTube is because it's the place where you get everything that you're looking for, from, you know, a 15-minute VOD with your favorite YouTuber, to that 3-hour NFL game, to a 15-hour live stream, to a 30-second short, all in one place. And by the way, it's not just the old world where all of that content is just talking at you, you can participate. That fandom that exists on YouTube is not just in service of all of that amazing content, but it is culture setting in its own right. So the fact that YouTube is the epicenter of culture because of our creators is really what I meant by, YouTube being the new TV.
So some creators from YouTube are starting to appear on traditional streaming. Miss Rachel, in sort of a very unusual arrangement, Netflix is licensing her shows, her video off YouTube to put shows on Netflix. I think Logan and Jake Paul have a show on Max called Paul American, if I'm not mistaken. And so do you view that as enhancing their presence on YouTube? How are you viewing that?
The way I view it is it really comes back to the fact that I think, what I've observed, especially in recent years, YouTube is the epicenter of culture. It's not just this amazing creator content. You mentioned some of these great examples with Miss Rachel, but it's all the fandom and all the engagement that happens around it. And I think, other platforms are taking notice of that. And how do I feel about it? I think it's fantastic because these creators, every time they speak to me, they tell me that YouTube is their home base. They understand that all of that success that they're getting on YouTube, but that they're getting off of YouTube, derives from this incredible audience and this connection, this authentic connection, to their credit, that they've built on YouTube. You go to Mr. Beast, to Jimmy Donaldson's offices in North Carolina. He's got kind of his 5 rules of success. His number 1 rule is YouTube first. So no matter what he does, the place where he will invest the most of his creativity, of his time, and his resources is in the success of his YouTube channel and the videos. And every month they get bigger and bigger and more spectacular because he recognizes that that's not only good for him on YouTube, but also provides all of these other opportunities that are ancillary to what he's doing on YouTube. And so, back to the point of YouTube being the epicenter of culture, if we're the place where other services and platforms are getting their cultural ideas, I think that that's great for those creators, but also great for the YouTube ecosystem.
Well, can we talk for a second about the role of gatekeepers? Because Hollywood has been built on a system of gatekeepers, people who will tell you that your show is worthy or not, or your film is worthy or not of a green light. And what is missing in that equation from where you sit as your experience with this sort of, a true direct-to-consumer experience?
Yeah, I just think, fundamentally what's missing is that the world has changed. And what I mean by that is consumers have changed in terms of their expectation and what they want to do with their time. Our mission is to give everyone a voice and show them the world. And it means precisely, Janice, that no one can tell you that you look the wrong way, or you sound the wrong way, or you're the wrong gender, or you're from the wrong part of the world when you upload that video to YouTube. And that is the profound aspect of YouTube. When we say it's an open platform, a platform that stands for freedom of expression and freedom of speech, that's what I mean. That is turning up on its head the way that I think a lot of the industry worked. And I would argue for the better. It's a reason why there's 2 billion people that come every day. There's a reason why there's tens of millions of creators on our platform, because nobody turned them away when they first had that amazing creative idea and posted it on their YouTube channel.
I should note that since Miss Rachel has started on Netflix, I believe her views have only gone up on YouTube, is what I'm told, which has been nice marketing for you, I guess.
Look, I think it's what I said. These creators, Miss Rachel included, and all of her peers, really do view YouTube as their home base. And so if it results in projects and other types of opportunities elsewhere, I think it's great for them. I think it leads to more investment in terms of the success of their channels on YouTube. And one thing that's very important, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit, on YouTube, the model is very different than it is on other streaming services, obviously studios, because we don't own the content.
Right.
The creator owns the content. So when that video, Miss Rachel uploads that video to YouTube, not only can she continue to benefit for years in terms of its revenue growth because of our revenue share program, but if she decides to do something different with that video, she can do that whenever she wants. And so the analogy that I like to use when it comes to creators is, your channel is like a library. You're basically building up this library around your creativity, around your vision, and it should be more valuable to you 10 years from now than it is today, because you always get to continue to own the content as opposed to licensing it off or selling it off to a studio, which is the way the traditional underwriting model exists today.
And for those who are not familiar, if you typically sell a show to streaming now, it's a cost plus model. They pay you the cost of production plus a fee. So it's a very different model. Now, this whole back and forth, why the traditional entertainment space is now looking to creators, why so many of them are here at Cannes Lion, is because there's a lot of money attached to this now, a lot of brand money. And there was a study that just came out from WPP. Creator-led programming has surpassed traditional media. It will surpass traditional media this year with a spend of $185 billion. And everybody wants a piece of that. So can you just give us a preview of what message you're giving to brands while you're here at Cannes Lion?
Yeah. First and foremost, you really have to put yourself as a brand in the shoes of these creators. Like, you really literally have to think as a creator first and foremost, above and beyond everything else, and all the other tactics will stem from that. And what I mean is, like, practically speaking, it literally means having a presence on YouTube, which of course every brand does today, but then thinking about your audience as a creator would think about their audience. Like, this is my audience. How am I authentic with my voice, my brand? What does it stand for? To connect with that audience, not just in service of products and services I have this month or this year, but over the long run. And that's where collabs come from. That's where other partnerships come from. That's where your paid media can amplify what you're doing on your channel. And so that's really the core of what my message is going to be this week.
So on the creator front, though, like, creators, no one wants a one-off deal anymore, right? It's my understanding they would all like longer engagements with the brand. And is that part of that sort of organic storytelling that they would like to be part of?
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think creators, particularly the larger creators, want a more strategic conversation with brands, more around alignment of vision, because first and foremost, what creators, all creators, but particularly the ones that have had enormous success on YouTube, really care about above and beyond everything else is their audience and that connection that they've built with that audience. And the savvy ones will never take it for granted. They never want that to get burned. And so to the extent that they work with brands, it has to be done in a way where it is a deep sort of meeting of the minds as opposed to something that's fly by night. And that's what I meant also when I said earlier that brands have to think as creators, because if they're in that mindset, they also don't want that sort of like random mix and match in your feed, gone here one week, gone the next. Like, that is not the way to success. And so, yes, and I think that results in content, but it results also in deeper types of integrations. It results in off YouTube partnerships as well. And so that's really important. And the way that a brand is successful there is thinking like a creator.
Interesting. And so there has been a little bit of a lag of brands catching up, right, to where the creator movement actually is. And, you know, you have people up and down the Croisette here. Every one of your competitors, your social media competitors, is here. How are you both making your point of distinction as a place for creators, for the creators and also for advertisers?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say, and actually I'll point back to where this conversation started. You know, you mentioned, you know, our leadership position in streaming on televisions, and I don't view YouTube as, you know, as a social media platform. We're not social media. We're not sort of traditional television. We're really in our own lane, you know, characteristics of streaming, what have you. And as a result of it, like, the way I think about YouTube is it's a creator platform. Like, the content on YouTube is creator-led, creator-produced content. We are very proud of the fact, I'm very proud of the fact that we are the world's original and largest creator economy. We intend to remain that way. You know, when YouTube started 20 years ago, that term creator was meaningless. It didn't mean anything. Like, when that Me at the Zoo video was uploaded, and you fast forward to today, creators are a worthwhile profession and pursuit by young people all over the world. That's a testament to, you know, what YouTube stands for. We've paid out over $70 billion to the creator economy over the last 3 years. That number continues to grow, hopefully will continue to grow. And the way that I think about it from a brand standpoint is that, by investing in YouTube, you're really participating in that ecosystem, but you have to do it by being a creator first and really doubling down. And it's a global ecosystem, right? So think about it that way and think about it over the long term. Like it really is not just about what you're thinking about in this year's upfronts or in this year's sort of scatter markets or what have you. It's like a multi-year sort of slow burn type investment. And the brands that do that are the ones that see the results.
Now, I have heard when we've interviewed Sean Evans before Rhett and Link, they've talked about getting more money out of the brands at higher CPMs, right? And Sean Atkins, who's the CEO of Darman's production company, he came from a traditional Hollywood background, and he said like they would like to be paying everyone on their team more, and that's why they want CPMs to go up on YouTube. And can you tell me how you are trying to get those numbers up with advertisers to sort of meet where the creators are?
Yeah, and as Janice, you may know, like before I've been at YouTube a very long time, but before that, I used to run Google's display and video ads business. So my multi-decade career really has been in the media and the advertising space. So it's personally important to me to generate those results on behalf of brands. And that's a primary focus, not just of me, but my teams across YouTube. Many of you here will spend time with our YouTube and Google teams, and that's our job. That's what we're looking to do. And ultimately, it comes down to one very simple thing. Is YouTube meeting what that brand's objective is? I gave you a bunch of sort of advice and tactics, brands thinking about creators, et cetera. All of that holds, and that's foundational, but we have to generate results. An example I was just talking with someone about earlier is L'Oreal's new campaign. I think it was around Urban Decay. They worked with a couple of creators, back to your point about deep engagement with those creators, and it was very creative content, very authentic, creator forward, but it also resulted in something on the order of north of 250% search uplift, right? So it's got to translate into real metrics and real results for the brands. That was a great example of that happened. Sephora did their sort of holiday picking campaign, again, going deeper with a handful of YouTube Shorts creators, nearly 100% search uplift there too. So it's got to tie back to ROI. And that is what the singular focus of the YouTube teams are, our Google teams, to drive that on behalf of brands every single day.
Well, one of the interesting things that your creators are doing, some of them, is they're running campaigns to win an Emmy Award, which is about the most old school thing you can do, to win an award from this legacy voting body out of Hollywood. But I think it was Rhett or Link explained that it was because that's one way you send a message to the larger ad community that this is premium.
Yeah. Well, first thing I would say is, and I've shared this with my colleagues at the Television Academy, is that I would argue that in order for an award show like the Television Academy or a program like that to remain relevant in today's world, is like, how could you be ignoring like this, you mentioned 11%, like growing portion of television, the majority leading portion of television is not even part of your purview. It seems a little odd, right? So I think it's important from that standpoint, really from their behalf. But from a creator standpoint, I think one aspect of it is what you said, which is continuing sort of this drumbeat of just a recognition amongst brands, amongst advertisers, that this is premium television, particularly for young people. That's an aspect of it. In my view, I actually think that that's sort of a benefit. But the real reason, I think, is, and I'll borrow from one of our creators, Kinigra Dion. She said, I've worked really hard. I'm really proud of my content. She does scripted content on YouTube. I employ lots of people. I have a studio. So just like I studied really hard for the test, I want the A. She wants that recognition. And I think that that's empowering. And so, yeah, we're very proud to support the creators who are interested in this. Not every creator is, but to those that are, we want to be supportive of them, just like, they would be on other platforms. So as YouTubers, we really stand proud with them.
So this is a good segue into Gen Z. And I was told a statistic that, 65% of Gen Z would rather watch something on YouTube about one of these award shows, about a major event on television, than the main event itself. So is that something that should send fear down the spines of people who are making this tentpole programming for legacy Hollywood?
The way I look at it is all of Hollywood, all the studios, when I have conversations with them, one-on-one conversations with their leadership, it's not about that. It's always about how can we do more with YouTube? Some of the biggest quote unquote creators on YouTube are these studios, given the amazing IP that they've had, in some cases, well over a century, right? And so I think the reason why they view us more as partners than sort of as some kind of a threat is because of what you're describing, this notion of fandom. And fandom isn't just about, I like this particular movie, or I like this particular character, or this genre, and I'm producing my own content around it. Of course, it's that aspect, but that fan-created content in and of itself is also culture defining and culture setting. And that's really, back in your quote, that's really, really important. And so if done right, then all of this amazing sort of traditional studio content can work hand in hand with it in a self-reinforcing way. And by the way, I think that really works for brands too. So if you want to be immersed in that type of content, you better make sure that you're also plugged into all of this amazing fan content, and don't think about it as ancillary to the original programming, to use your quote. Think about it as sort of augmenting the culture around that. And that is really what happens on YouTube. You go and visit, you go to VidCon, it's sort of a real life example of what's happening, right? Like these people, families from all over the world coming so that they can get 10 minutes with their favorite creator in real life, and the lines are out the door. And it's very unique, I think, to the YouTube creator, because YouTube is a platform that is creator first. The face of the creator is what matters, as opposed to trend of the day, feed of the day kind of a thing. And that's really, really core to that fandom that happens. And that's what I think a lot of traditional studios lean into.
Yeah. I mean, remember, Hollywood is a place where they have huge marketing teams. If you're rolling out a movie, it's a 2-year plan that's been in place. And we're seeing, I want to just go back to this conversation about community and fandom. We saw with Minecraft, right? That, like, I guarantee no one at Warner Brothers had made a plan where people go throw popcorn or bring a live chicken into a movie theater, right? And someone from the video game world I was just with told me that I don't play video games, but that you cannot develop a video game today without this early engagement from the community. So this is something that's going to confound marketers who have maybe not been in this space. They're not fluent in it. Like, what's your advice to people who have these big marketing teams who are laying out, beautifully perfected plans? Like, can you still do that?
I think that those plans still need to exist. They need to be well thought out. They just need to have this characteristic to them that is ultimately about what your movie or what your project was looking to serve in the first place, which are the fans. And where are those fans? Those fans are on a platform like YouTube. And the amazing thing is those fans want to engage around your creative idea. Minecraft is a great example, right? Like, game, ultimately very successful movie. The line between those two things was actually the fandom that happened on YouTube. The amount of Minecraft content that's produced and engaged in,
yes,
and that happens on YouTube every single day is enormous. And a successful marketing campaign will take that into account, and to their credit, they did. And it just becomes self-reinforcing. That's what I mean by, like, making sure that that amazing fandom that exists on YouTube around your brand. And by the way, I think every type of brand just needs to find that fandom because they're there on YouTube, and using it for your project in a way that is truly authentic to the fans, fan forward, is the path to success. So Minecraft was a good example around this. Whether it's a video game launch, like whether it's, GTA 6 next year, that will be an enormous cultural moment that will play out on YouTube. So it's up to you as a brand in terms of how you think about that fandom, that engagement, and that is where the culture is being set. So it's important to not just incorporate it into your plans and your activations. It's got to be a core aspect of it.
I want to talk about sports and podcasts, which are two big growth areas for YouTube. I think I saw sports have grown 30% on YouTube in the last year. Talk to me about Sunday Ticket, NFL Sunday Ticket. So you pay $2 billion a year for those rights, as was reported.
Don't believe everything that's
Okay,
written
all
in the
right.
print, but,
Okay. Maybe it was 3. Just kidding. Is that a recoupable expense for YouTube? That's a lot of money. Like, how are you feeling about how that has worked for you?
Yeah, I think that's actually a great example, Janice, of a lot of different things that we talked about kind of coming together. Because the reason why I was so excited about it and why we did it, and by the way, also why we're doing the opening weekend game, the Sao Paulo, the Brazil game, with the Chiefs and Chargers, going to be on YouTube. It's going to be the first, really in front of the paywall, open aperture to the 2 billion users that come to YouTube every single day. The NFL is very excited about it, as am I. The reason we did Sunday Ticket is back to this notion of it really comes down to the fans and the consumers, all of us, right? So could we do something that would, first of all, just open up the TAM, right? And that's where the economic piece comes in, right? Like, it used to be that you'd have to call somebody, get this dish installed on your house on a particular day. That would happen 2 weeks down the road, and then you'd get Sunday Ticket. Well, now with a couple of taps on your phone, you're up and running watching your favorite team, no matter where you live in the US. So that was one aspect. And that was, TAM expanding in terms of the opportunity, not just for the NFL, but frankly for YouTube as well. The second is, could we actually do real product technical innovation? So one of the features that everybody writes to me about is multi-view, right? And we had that on YouTube TV for some time, but having a quad box with 4 NFL games, including your favorite team, turns out is a magical experience for fans. And we had a number of other features like that weren't as sort of headline grabbing as multi-view, but really showed the product innovation. And the third and most important reason was everything that we were talking about, which is, if you're a young fan, I have, my son is a 17-year-old sports nut, but everything that he watches is through the lens of his favorite YouTubers and sports creators. And the NFL recognized that. And when the NFL came onto YouTube, despite them being sort of the king of the hill, we aged down their audience because we could actually allow that content now to live alongside all of this other amazing creator-first sports content that was happening on YouTube. And that sort of was the flywheel that we were betting on, that I was betting on, and that we've seen happen in Sunday Ticket, and gave me conviction then to sort of double down and do this live game as well. And so that's really a combination. It's back to that point around like the main event, which is the NFL game, and all the fandom, creator-driven fandom living in sort of like combination.
Will we see more sports on YouTube coming up?
We carry a lot of sports. I mean, in the U.S., the talk is always about Sunday Ticket and the NFL and what we're doing there. In Brazil, we carry the two of the largest soccer leagues. That has been very successful. One of the product innovations we did in Brazil around Palestau was to do a watch with, which is watch your favorite football teams play, soccer teams play, but do it with your favorite creator, in this case, Kaze TV. And not only was that TAM expanding, audience expanding for this incredibly popular sports league, it brought this magical experience of fandom combined with the live event. And we actually took that idea and did a pilot of that with NFL Sunday Ticket last season. So expect to see more of that type of creator innovation as well.
Now let's go to podcasts. So you're under the skin of Hollywood. Maybe you're under the skin of places like Spotify also, because podcasts are doing extremely well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I say podcasts on YouTube are really like a perfect example of what feels like an overnight success, but it was many years in the making, really. And we first started to notice podcasts, and back then really audio podcasts, like as a thing on YouTube, frankly, without us doing anything, like no product innovation. So just in spite of ourselves before COVID. And so that long ago. And we made kind of 2 or 3 sort of key bets around podcasts. One was, and COVID accelerated this, was that people actually don't want to just listen to podcasts. They want to watch podcasts. They want to watch this conversation happening. By the way, is this going to go on YouTube?
I hope so. There's a camera.
All right, good. So like watching that, in some sense, it's sort of like Back to the Future, right? Like in some
Yes.
sense, the old news interview
talk show.
shows that used to happen, right? And so people really want to watch. So video was a really big bet. That turned out to be true. The other was that podcasting, from a podcaster's perspective, is not just about sort of reliability of the audience. And of course, we have that with subscribers and channel subscribers and making sure that the audience always keeps showing up. But just as important, if not more important, around the discoverability. You want to keep growing that audience every single day. And so having those podcasts hosted on YouTube and having the algorithm find new audiences for you every single day turns out to be really, really powerful, no matter how big of a podcaster you are. And then the third piece is, just like we were talking about earlier, is really around monetization. Podcast content is amazing for brands. And so can we find a way to innovate there? How do we get past sort of like the generic table reads to a much more dynamic ad model that really works with brands and brings their creativity to the table? So that's a big bet for me. And so those are the three areas in terms of how I think about the success of podcasts on YouTube.
But Neal, I want to point out that YouTube is bringing a different audience to podcasts. I have the podcast charts, and YouTube started to do podcast charts. So this is so interesting to me on the top podcasts by platform. So the week this was done, number 1 on Apple, Good Hang with Amy Poehler, Spotify, Joe Rogan, YouTube, Joe Rogan. But after that, it all becomes completely different. And they're things I hadn't heard of. Kill Tony is your number 2 for you. Rotten Mango, which is true crime. And so how do you account for that difference and so on? And how do you account for that difference of what podcasts are hitting on YouTube versus the other platforms?
Just my view is all of those podcast genres, talent, et cetera, should have a home on YouTube. Like, my job is to make it so that they're all successful. There's enough of an audience there that all of those podcasters can ultimately be successful. I think the main differentiator is, we're a video first platform, right? So podcasters that really sort of lean into that. And what I mean by that is not, highly produced news show style production, but recognizing that having sort of like a familiar look and feel for your audience and finding a way to act, so much of communication is nonverbal, right? So really, really capturing that. Those are the podcasts that tend to be successful on our platform. So Stephanie Sue of Rotten Mango is a good example, right? So she had a podcast, then she bet on video. She put up her podcast on her YouTube channel and grew her subs by 2 million in, I think, a little over a year because of that bet. And it turns out that genre, like true crime with video, works
pretty powerful.
Works really successfully on our platform. So
okay, last topic of the day, AI. So, this is the thing that's terrifying to people. It's here. For creators, I saw a lot of creators using Google VO and putting things up online. So let's talk about where you see the future of AI and creators, but also, I saw the changes recently about content moderation at YouTube. How are we going to ensure we don't end up in a Mountainhead situation for anyone who's watched it?
Yeah. Well, first, kudos to both of us for not bringing up AI and having this whole conversation about it. But now we're here. Look, I think that 2 things will be true about AI that have been true, at least in my experience, about every sort of technological paradigm shift. And that's really what's going on with what we're experiencing with AI. The first is like, you can't sort of hide from it. Technological disruption, especially when there's a breakthrough platform shift like this, is going to happen. Mm-hmm. The second is that I think that it's going to create some disruption, but it will also create tremendous opportunity. So on balance, I am a huge optimist. And I think YouTube has sort of this unique perch. And so I'm speaking from the lens of creativity, right? Like, we are a business that is facing creative people every single day, but we are also fundamentally a deeply technology-driven company. Everything what we do is build software on behalf of creators and advertisers and all of us as users. So from that vantage point, I really think AI is going to be a tool for human creativity as opposed to something that will replace it, right? Like, it's truly a tool set. So a couple of examples. You mentioned one of them, VO. that is amazing, right? It will be disruptive, right?
Sure.
Like you can see that, but it will also put these incredibly powerful tools and capabilities in the hands of amazingly creative people that otherwise, frankly, wouldn't have had access to them.
Right.
And I would argue in the long run that that is going to be better for creativity and opportunity for human beings. And will, as these creators that use these tools become successful, they also become employers, and they in aggregate become huge employers, right? We just did this study in the US where nearly 500,000 jobs are in the creator ecosystem industry. I think AI has the potential to create those types of opportunities by really just democratizing access to these tools and then allowing these people to build up and hire people. That's the first. The second thing that I will say is that it's not just about, like, when you think about AI and the concept of something like creativity in YouTube, it's not just about producing video or producing audio. That's sort of where the mind immediately goes, and that's kind of where like the sexy opportunities are. But a lot of AI is going to be around things like, one of the things that creators are really excited about, and when I speak to brands are also really excited about is like multi-track audio.
Right.
So what if you could take AI and it could translate your video into not just the top 5 languages, but the top 100 languages. And it could do that almost instantaneously with very high precision, and do it in a way that keeps your voice, keeps your intonation. What is that? Well, I would argue that that is not just audience expanding, but that is business expanding as well. And so that's another big area of opportunity. And the final thing that I'll say, and I think YouTube has a track record on this, specifically because we invented technology like Content ID, which is also another AI piece of technology. And what I mean by that is our core principle is always going to be about protecting the rights of creative people, just like we did with Content ID. And those are not just words. We actually have a track record of doing that around copyright. So we supported the No Fakes Act, for example. So if you are a creative person and you're protecting your face or your voice, can YouTube give you a set of tools to do that in a way that is important to you, where the economic value accrues to you? So it's being bold in terms of technology like VO and multi-track audio, but also being responsible around, some of the challenges that will come with it and how we can actually protect creative people.
Okay, last question, an easy one. We have 30 seconds. What is Neal Mohan watching today? What's on? Let's hear it.
Is it on YouTube or off YouTube?
Both.
Okay. Well, I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch lots of creators. So my daughter loves this creator, Hope Scope. So I was watching her. She posts on the weekend. So I was watching that with my daughter. I watch a lot of YouTube, so I can go through, give you genre recommendations across the board. I'm a big sports nut, so I watch a lot of sports. So I'm watching the NBA finals, just like I know a lot of people are. I'm a cricket fan, so I just watched the IPL. Non-YouTube, speaking of sports, I saw a documentary. It was on Netflix, so I don't know if I was killing time there or what I was doing, but it was a documentary on the unraveling of Brett Favre. I don't know why I watched it, but as a sports fan, I watched it. And another one I saw, which was actually a great show, is called The Royals on Netflix, which is like this. It's an Indian drama / comedy about this royal family that loses everything and is trying to build everything up by renting out their palace. So, anyways, there are some examples. Check them out. You can blame me if you don't like them. So,
Neal, great conversation. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Okay, give it up for Neal.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.